Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Welcome in on this beautiful Monday afternoon. I know it's cold out there for most of us here in the United States today. It's a little bit cool. And we have a 90% chance of snow hitting us. I think it's this Friday. And your girl Jessica will be on the road this weekend. I am speaking at a UFO conference on Saturday. And so I'm going to keep you guys posted. It is still on for Saturday in Blue Ridge, Georgia. If anybody was planning on going to that, they're still planning to have it right now. So if anything changes, I will let you guys know because, yeah, I mean, I barely know what's going on in my own world. But as soon as I get word, I will let you know. Okay. And I'm looking forward to it. Actually, the North Georgia mountains are absolutely beautiful, especially when it snows. So, yeah, also dangerous. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. We had a fantastic show Saturday night with Alan Thomas of Squatch Zone. He is such a treat to have on the show. And we talked about a lot of stuff. So if you guys missed that show, please go back and check that out again. A lot of Bigfoot Squatch talk. All right. His YouTube channel is called Squatch Zone. So if you guys missed that, definitely go back and check it out. All right. Well, I just have to admit something. My computer crashed right before the show today. And so thank goodness I have our resident werewolf here in the studio today. Okay. Because we're going to be talking about the Rougarou, the Loup Garou, and the werewolf witch trials in Europe many centuries ago. Okay, but nonetheless, this is very important for us to talk about today, and so we are going to be discussing that with Dr. Dennis Carroll today, and so you guys buckle up, buttercups. We've got a lot to talk about this afternoon, and it could get a little scary. Okay, it could get a little scary, but like I said, we have our resident werewolf here on site to discuss these topics today. And he actually, Dr. Dennis Carroll is our resident expert on werewolves and vampires. So thank goodness he's here. All right. Well, if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and everything I got going on, please go to, okay, go to my website. I'm trying to find my ticker here. It is missing. Oh, there we go. Please go to my website, thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows there, all the archives, everything we've got going on with my calendar, the calendar of events. I am going to be at the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall coming up, not this weekend, but the next weekend down in Opelika, Alabama. So please come see me at that as well. That's going to be a fun event. But this weekend, I'm at Fannin County, Georgia. That's Blue Ridge, Georgia, for our UFOs Real Conference is what that's called. And it's Les Durant, Dr. John Stamey, Matthew Delph. Matthew always shows that video of those orbs that turn into ETs that I talk about a lot. He's probably going to show those this weekend at that conference. And it's probably going to be a kind of a small conference now that it's snowing. But nonetheless, it will be a conference. And the Erie Travels crew is going to be there as well. So Muncie, I can't remember his first name, but they're going to be there too with Erie Travel. So you guys come see us up there on Saturday. I think it begins at 1:00 in the afternoon up in Fannin County. The information's on my website. Okay, so y'all go check that out. Also, I do have a Patreon if you guys would like to support my work. Thank you to all of my Patreon members. You guys do mean the world to me. And also, I do have a shop. It's called War Woman Goods. It's on Etsy. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. there. Okay, well, let's get to our show today. Because like I said, we do have a lot to talk about. Okay, let's see. Throughout history, there are records of the trials of confessed and accused werewolves. They were hunted, questioned, and executed in much the same way as witches. Witches were also accused of being werewolves as well, skinwalkers, I guess, shapeshifters. These werewolf trials give us a historical glimpse at rampant human belief in werewolves, and up to 30,000 accused were executed across Europe as well. It might be more than that. That was the one solid number that I could find online. 30,000 people. Okay. France experienced several dozen werewolf witch trials. Gosh, y'all, that's crazy. Several dozen witch trials, not just like several dozen people got accused. We're talking about several dozen witch trials that happened around the end of the 16th century. In many of the cases, it was the Gandillon Family, the Werewolf of Châlons, the Jacques Roulet of Angers, and the accused were also accused of unaliving and cannibalism, of course. And there were several well-known cases in France, but they were all over the entire world. We're going to talk about those today. We're also going to be talking about hounds from God. I guess it's hounds of God. Dennis was just telling me about this before the show started today. We're going to be talking about curses. We're going to talk about how you become a werewolf. We're going to talk about how to protect your home from werewolves. We've got all that lined up for you guys today. And we're also going to be talking about the Rougarou, of course, famous down in New Orleans and in Louisiana, down in the bayou. And we have Dr. Dennis Carroll here today. Dr. Dennis Carroll has decades of experience with the paranormal. He is a cryptid field researcher, just like myself, and will be, he writes books. He's an author. He's got his own podcast. It's called Hunting the Shadows. You guys, please go check out Hunting the Shadows on YouTube and subscribe. And he's got a Patreon as well. Please help me welcome to the show our good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll.
Good afternoon. Hey, Dennis. It's kind of rainy where I'm at, but it's cold, definitely.
Uh-oh. That rain's going to turn to snow maybe within the week, I bet.
I want some snow. I haven't seen snow in quite a while, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope it does. But people tend to panic when it happens, but in the South especially. But
they do. I've already bought my toilet paper, Dennis. We got toilet paper. We're going to have milk and bread. We're going to be okay.
Have all the essentials put in, definitely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, you got one of my favorite subjects today, definitely, Jessica, the werewolf. The werewolves are very, very, to me, fascinating subjects. You can be a werewolf and a witch, too. You got to be one or the other sometimes. That's the interesting thing about all these werewolf trials and stuff that we're going to talk about today. They overlap the witchcraft trials big time, because in order to be a werewolf, you have to be a witch, unless you're cursed now, unless you got under the curse of the werewolf, which means you don't have any, way to prevent from becoming the werewolf. But if you are a full-blown witch, you can obtain the level of werewolf, or you can obtain the level of the vampire. You can obtain the level of the big black cats, the phantom cats that we talk about. The Appalachian witches are very good at that, by the way. And the list goes on and on. So when you go into werewolves, you're going into witchcraft, big time.
Oh yeah, big time. Well, I was actually, when I was doing all my research on this today, I like to pack in a good bit of research before each show. And I did notice there was a lot of regarding the Rougarou, especially. It's all about curses, okay? And the Rougarou, the Loup Garou, it's all about being cursed. This is not. I wanted to start off with the Rougarou or the Loup Garou today, but these witch trials happened centuries ago, and people were. It very much sounded like the witch trials as well, and they are kind of overlapped. Because, like I said in the intro today, like you just mentioned, the witches were actually accused of transforming into werewolves. Okay, a lot of times. Now, of course, we have that saying like, "Oh, so and so's on a witch hunt," right? A witch hunt, because there are a lot of people who actually were accused of being witches, who were not really witches. They weren't witches. It was just people that, political opponents, or political dissidents, and people that if you didn't like your neighbor, you could just accuse them of being a witch, and you could just get rid of them, right, Dennis?
Well, most of the witchcraft trials were geared to just stealing people's property, slandering people, running them out of town, getting rid of your enemies, kind of a thing. That was the tool for it. Definitely, accusing someone of witchcraft. But there were also some people like the witch generals that actually hunted these people for the church. They felt that it was a religious duty that they had, especially if you were a werewolf and you were indulging in witchcraft. So it was, a sort of a two-sided blade, cuts both ways, and that's the way they kind of looked at it. But a lot of this stuff was used, especially the Salem witchcraft trials and stuff like that over here, were used mainly to steal people's property. That's basically what it was. But a lot of these people were not witches. Okay, they were definitely not falling into the category of witchcraft. But you have certain trials that you got to look at in history, Jessica. It makes you wonder, what's going on with that, because it had a lot of evidence with it, especially shape-shifting abilities that they supposedly had. That is fascinating too, because you've got some clues there, I think, that are kind of pointing you to something more serious than just stealing someone's property or slandering somebody or getting rid of somebody for certain purposes. There are other things going on too with that. Now, when it goes to the Rougarou, which we'll talk about too, the Rougarou is sort of like a curse, especially if you're Catholic. And a lot of the French Bayou people are Catholic, the Cajuns. And that ties into that. We'll talk about that too, why you get cursed for doing certain things. But this stuff is all fascinating. I've had occasion to hunt a couple of Rougarous in my time. And this is dangerous, very dangerous stuff to mess around with, because this is a spiritual entity that is very demonic in its concept.
Well, I've gone on a dogman hunt before, and dogmen and werewolves are different. And so maybe we should let the audience know today, because there may be people watching or listening in who aren't familiar with the difference between a dogman and a werewolf. And some say that they're the same thing. Dennis, what is your opinion? Do you think that there are two different entities?
Definitely. I think there are some very distinct differences in these creatures. One is brought about by dark black witchcraft, satanic power, demonic power. The other may be a naturally occurring thing, or it may be a hybrid left over from the Nephilim experiments that were done. We won't get into that another show for another time, but that is definitely, I think, part of the possible equation of it. The one thing about the werewolf, if you hunt a werewolf or Rougarou, and it may go along with the dogman too, I would advise it that you have to be pure of heart. In other words, your intentions you have to go in with a good heart, with good intentions, even hunting this creature, because this thing is so dark, Jessica, that it will touch the darkness in you if you're not careful. And that's what happens with the Rougarou and the curse of the Rougarou.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's why, that's why it's so important for people who I go on, I don't want to say hunts, but investigating, like the dogmen, even Bigfoot. It's important to know those people really well and to know their intentions. Okay, because when you're out in the field and you're doing things like we're doing, hunting monsters, okay, like literally hunting monsters out in the woods, or what some people would consider to be monsters. It's important to have a pure heart, right?
When you approach, when you approach the subject Like I said, you have to purify yourself. If you go out looking for these things, even looking for skinwalkers, there is a process where you kind of purify yourself. You have a blessing on you. You put the holy ash on you. And by the way, that happens at Lent for Catholics. They will mark themselves with ash and all that. This is very important that you take these precautions and go into this with what is called a pure heart. In other words, your intentions aren't murderous. You're just sort of looking for what you're looking for. You have to be very careful how you approach this thing. And like you said just now, I believe these creatures, which are super, super sensitive, can actually pick up on what your true intentions are and what you're doing. And that's why I say to a lot of monster hunters, okay, you can go in with a full ops team, but what are you going to do when you catch the monster? You better have a plan in place. When you finally catch him, when you finally corner him, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to unalive it? Or are you going to try to bring it back as a trophy? Or are you going to just take pictures and notes on it, which is what I would do. I'm not out there to kill them, and bring them home and stick them on the wall, kind of a thing. But some people are, and they know these intentions, and they know that your intentions are bad. They're going to pick up on it, and they're going to react. It's going to be a reactionary thing with them. So you're really setting yourself up for some trouble down the line.
You are. Well, I mean, I do know people. I'm not this way. I'm not this way, y'all, I promise. But I do know people that would just love nothing more than to have a Dogman or a werewolf fang, okay, or a claw, to wear as a necklace and all that kind of stuff, or to mount a head on their wall, okay. And I do know people that joke around about doing that and wish that they could do that. And so they're going to be able to know your intentions when you're out there. If you're hunting them, you're going to be a little more likely to be hunted when you're out there hunting them, when you want to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. And one other thing though about the werewolf, which sets it apart from Dogman to a certain extent, I think, and that is its pure demonic rage that it has. The werewolf is not going to just kill you; it's going to taste you too. When it gets done, it's going to eat some of you, and you hear about this in the werewolf trials and all that, about cannibalism and all that. This is big deep into it. Let me say something about that right quick before we go into some of the precepts of dark witchcraft. Have you to imbibe human flesh? You have to eat. You have to do the cannibalism thing. Okay, put it that way. In certain instances, to obtain the dark power that you need, and that goes on with the werewolf. The vampire, of course, taking flesh too, to a certain extent. Although it doesn't cannibalize it, it cannibalizes your blood, but that's all. But the werewolf is going to taste you. He's going to take a big chunk out of you. He's going to eat some of you when he gets done. But here's the thing about, and you got to remember this about werewolf and the Dogman. And I have not seen the Dogman. I've done thousands of reports of Dogman. I have not seen them act the way werewolves do, to a certain extent, because like I said, werewolves are just demonic fury. They are psychotic killers. Once they get on your trail, once they smell your perfume, Jessica, they'll never stop till they find you.
Ew. And so they have a I don't want to say a thirst. It'd be more like a hunger for flesh. Then, and they have to eat it. That's part of the curse? Is that what you're saying? It's kind of part of the curse. They have to eat flesh.
Absolutely. It's part of the ritual. It's part of the thing that they have to do. But also something that they enjoy, put it that way, because they have become such debased creatures that they enjoy the taste of human flesh. So it does, they're out looking for that, definitely.
Ew.
And
Okay.
And their favorite target are elderly people or children, because they're more or less victims waiting to happen, you might say. They're the prey for the predator. The werewolf is just like any other predator, like a tiger or a lion or a bear. whatever the situation is, they're looking for a weakness. We've said that so many times before. We need to live our lives in strength and not weakness. Once we show weakness, there are things out there that are watching and waiting to take advantage of that. And we have to be very careful.
Yes.
Especially
I just saw Dogman
something
rug.
like a werewolf.
Yeah, somebody in the chat just said Dogman rug. Yeah, like a bearskin rug, I guess. Boy, wouldn't that be something? I tell you, that'd be something. Also, the werewolves are basically slaves to the moon cycles as well, right, Dennis? I mean, what does the moon have to do with werewolves? I mean, or how much of that affects werewolves?
They don't need the full moon to transform. They can transform at noon on a sunny day. They don't need the moon, but the moon enables them to have a little more power. In other words, they are animals of the night. They are children of the night, and the moon enables them a little more power, a little more powerful force. But they can transform at any time. You could be talking to a werewolf, at Walmart in the middle of the day, and it can transform into one. That would be it. Nothing stops them, because this is a process. Now, if you look at the cursed individual, he is more subject to the cycles of the moon. He is subject to that because he is under the curse of the werewolf, which is different than actually wanting to transform into the werewolf. You can't help what you're doing. These are usually the wolf men and women. They look kind of more like people, but they have a very wolfish, look to them. They're like, Lon Chaney Jr. and the Wolfman kind of a thing. They are under a curse or a bloodline curse, whatever the situation, or they were survivors of a werewolf attack that left them that way. Those are people who are lost souls. They are trapped and servants to the dark animal within inside of them.
Oh, I have a couple of things to bring up. Okay, and Maureen, thank you so much for gifting those memberships. That's so sweet of you. The girl in her gong, and Gus, just gifted five Cryptid Hunters memberships. Thank you so much, Maureen. Okay, so I had a while back, about a year ago, I had a friend who gives me some really good information, let's just say. And this guy, he knows people. He knows a lot of interesting people. And he sent me pictures of a guy that he knows who I believe I became friends with him on Facebook. I'm not going to tell you who it is. Okay. I don't even remember, but he sent me pictures of this guy. From what the pictures were showing, he said that he was transforming into a werewolf. And I'm not going to show these pictures on air. I don't even know where they are right now. But this gentleman, it was a regular human, and there was a series of pictures, and he looked as though his body was morphing, like his neck and his face, and he was just kind of a regular person, but his teeth and everything were like kind of shifting. It was really weird. It was really odd. So I do believe these are real, and there's people walking among us.
Well, I believe without a doubt that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe without a doubt that can happen. I can tell you right now exactly how to become a werewolf. I could give you the knowledge to do it, but I'm not going to do that because you might try it.
Oh, I'm not going to try it.
Don't worry about what it takes to do this and the things you have to do. Yeah, but it's not good knowledge. It's not something you want to pass on, because some people, unfortunately, I know you wouldn't do it, but some people, unfortunately, would try it, and it might not be very good for them. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that today. But there are certain precepts you do, certain steps you take for this process to begin. But you are given demonic power to shapeshift, and you put on the wolf belt or the pelt, whatever, whatever the spells have been done over this article that you wear that will help you in your transformation into this creature. That's why when you hunt this thing, why I said earlier, you have to be pure of heart, because this thing is pure evil. And that's the balance that you've got here, when you hunt these things. A lot of people back in ancient history knew that this thing, like the beast of Gavadon, which killed so many children, supposedly. The list goes on and on and on. Peter's stub and some of these other things that happen. And the cannibalism, of course, was involved, and it always is when you do ship shifting stuff.
Ooh. Here's a question from Tammy. Gee, what could we eat to make a werewolf too nauseous to eat us? Is there any way that well, I was going to talk about that later on, about how we can protect ourselves from werewolves, but yeah, I mean, I wonder like garlic with vampires. It's like you eat garlic or you keep garlic around, they'll stay away from you. I wonder if there's anything we could eat or carry on us.
The properties of garlic and onions, stuff like that. The insects will not bother them. They will not touch them. They won't go around them. That tells you that there is a repulsive factor to them, definitely. So if you wanted to like put something in you, to ingest something in you that would keep werewolves away from you, garlic would definitely put a little extra garlic on your spaghetti or your lasagna or whatever. Eat more of that. Onions too, leeks. The list goes on and on in this respect. It's sort of like natural repellent against this stuff.
Wow. Urso says each ritual is designed to lure and accept an entity within, so you may be entered. Okay, and we're talking about the dark magic that's going on, where people do become werewolves and do these dark rituals. But rituals are not the only way. Oh, I guess it would still be a ritual, but some people are born into lycanthropy. From what I was researching, it seemed as though a family bloodline could be cursed, and children can be born as werewolves. Dennis, now is that true?
Absolutely. And some of these bloodline curses, they may not have a full transformation. These people may have the attributes of the wolf, and they may have you ever seen or noticed anybody, like especially in business, that's very cutthroat, or they don't care what they do to you, they run roughshod over you? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
We've all known people like that.
Podcasters too.
They have what we call the wolf mentality. So the curse sometimes may not show up physically in the body, but in the personality it does. See what I'm saying? So that's part of the bloodline curse thing too.
Oh man. Well, and honestly, it kind of reminded me of the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil, wasn't that the mother actually put a curse on her own kid, right? And when it came out, it was like her 13th child. And 13 is a really interesting number because it actually is connected to werewolves as well. I think she cursed. She said it's going to be the devil or something. If she has another kid, and when it came out, it actually was devilish. Okay, and that's how the Jersey Devil story began. Okay, and there's a lot of Jersey Devil sightings up around New Jersey and in the Pine Barrens. But yeah, she cursed her own child, and yeah. So, anyways, thinking of curses. Okay. I was going to read some of these comments here. I'm sorry, y'all. My computer is not working, so I'm having to do everything on my phone today. So if I seem a little bit scattered, it's because we're having to do everything from my little tiny phone this afternoon. But anyways, but with the curses, I was reading that you could pass anybody could become a werewolf if a werewolf glances at you, Dennis. If it just looks at you. Is that true?
That depends. It might something that you can become under sort of the demonic curse of it by looking into the eyes of someone like that. It's not good. I always warn people it's not a good thing to make eye contact with any of these creatures because of the demonic power behind them and the mesmerism of it that can capture your will. There are many reports of people saying, I stood there And while the werewolf approached me, I couldn't run, I couldn't move. I was, paralyzed because they looked into its eyes. This happens a lot with a lot of certain monsters, supposedly. You
Yeah.
don't want to ever make eye contact with them because they can freeze you up and then make a victim out of you much easier that way. Sort of like this thing that some snakes have on their prey. They can mesmerize them and paralyze them. That's not good. In that situation, that would be a terrible thing.
It would be. Moondog Davis says in Ireland, certain types are protectors. St. Patrick turned some mocking people into werewolves.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah,
Interesting.
according to Celtic legend, the werewolf is looked upon more as a protector. The Celtic werewolf. It sort of had it, and here's another strange thing: it's sort of a protector of children too, as well. It's seen in Celtic folklore. It's a fascinating thing, and it sort of now the Celtic werewolf sort of runs deeper with the cycles of the moon than some other types of werewolves, and that may be where we get a lot of that from Hollywood thing about that. But another one other thing I was going to mention, another protection against werewolves is wolfsbane. Wolfsbane, which is kin to the snapdragon plant. The wolfsbane is very deadly poison, by the way. You would not want to walk around with this hanging around your neck, but if you needed to put it in rooms or something to protect your house, but never use it around pets because this is deadly poison. It can kill your dogs and your cats and your children, so you have to be very careful how you would use wolfsbane. But wolfsbane is an actual poison that kills wolves.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I lost my train of thought there for a second because I was talking about the number 13 as well. And I started thinking about the Jersey Devil and how it was the 13th child that was born. And actually, if you take, some people said that if you were to take 13 objects, we're talking about rocks, leaves, I mean, just 13 of anything. Okay, this is back in the day. Might work today too. But if you scatter 13 objects around your door, when the werewolf or the Loup Garou or the Rougarou tries to come and enter into your home, it will be so confused by these objects because it'll sit there and try to count them. And it only knows how to count to 12. It can't count to 13. So it will stop it from coming in your house because it'll be sitting there so confused that it won't be able to get in your house, Dennis.
Yeah, these things have a weird compulsive part to them, I guess you might call it. They like to count. Now, the vampire does the same thing too. They like to count stuff like grains of rice or whatever that you could scatter out. They can't pass it up without stopping to count it. Supposedly, that's part of folklore. I don't think I would want to stake my life on that, though. By the way, but there are certain things you can do to keep a Rougarou out of your house and to keep a werewolf away. Mirrors are very good at that. Mirrors that face outside your windows. These demonic entities, like regular demons, cannot stand to see themselves in mirrors. They see their true self. And so mirrors are repulsive to them to that extent. Just like the vampires supposedly with mirrors. So it is with a werewolf. Any kind of shiny object like that, but definitely if you don't have a mirror, if it's something shiny to put in your window, you can do that. It's supposed to have a repulsive thing to them, spiritually speaking. That's where silver comes in. You know, silver is a very shiny object too, and silver is sort of supposed to be one of the purer metals. And that's why it's supposedly used to kill werewolves. But here's very important that you remember: you can shoot a werewolf with all the silver bullets in the world you want, but unless those bullets are blessed, they will not take that werewolf down.
Oh my
And
goodness.
when they killed the beast of Gravadon, supposedly this man killed it with a silver bullet that was blessed, and supposedly it was the only way they killed this werewolf.
Hmm. that was actually part of what my team was instructed to do when I did seek consultation about going to that. I'm just going to say S Walker Cave, the S Walker Cave in Tennessee. The things that we were consulted on when I asked, how do we protect ourselves if we do run into something there? How do we, if it charges us, what do we do? And everything that we were taught, everything we were told was spiritual. And it boiled down to and I was asked not to share everything with the public, but it very much boiled down to similar to hunting vampires. And part of what we were told to do was to bless our ammunition and stuff, just like what you're saying.
Yeah, what you're doing is creating a spiritual shield against these things. Okay, and you got to remember that when you do bless something, and one of the most powerful things you can have with you is ash from the blessed and prayed over fires. This ash that you can mark yourself with is deadly against wendigos, especially and skinwalkers. They cannot stand this holy ash. I would advise to always have some of that with you. Now, the way you make that, of course, is that you burn a campfire and you say blessings over it. You say prayers over it. You anoint it with salt water and stuff like that. The different things, different oils. I can give you the formula. But anyway, you do this over a certain period. It's a ritual fire. It's basically what it is. And once this fire burns down, then you collect the ash from it. And the ash is very highly protective spiritually, supposedly.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was reading also that men used to carry a particular type of leaf in their pocket, and that would protect them from werewolves as well. Now, I personally have my blessed medallions that I have, courtesy of Dr. Dennis Carroll. Thank you, Dennis, for my beautiful medallions that I wear. But could something like this, like a medallion, I mean, if you believe in it, if you believe this will protect you, will this protect me from a werewolf?
Not leave home without it and put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Any kind of a blessed object creates that spiritual barrier we were talking about. You can carry other objects too, like a silver knife. Now, this knife is sterling silver, by the way. This is what you would say if you were like going to hunt werewolves or vampires or whatever. You would carry something like this. This would be deadly against them. And if you can't get a silver knife, at least get something that's shiny. Like I said, the shiny stuff does it. But the blessed medallions create a shield around you. They're very important because these are blessed objects. They're something that can touch you. And if they're touching you, they put that shield around you.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, at some point in the United States, werewolves became pretty popular. Okay, and we have a werewolf in Georgia, Emily Isabella Burt, and I love bringing her up. She's buried down in Talbot County, along the Troop Herd Corridor, where I do a lot of my Bigfoot field research, and a lot of alien abductions have happened down there. Mass alien abductions have been documented. Okay, that's how it got the name, the Troop Herd Corridor. It goes down the middle of Georgia into Alabama, and an area of high strangeness. Okay, but the place that's best known for werewolves would be around, I'm going to say Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi. Okay, and down in Georgia too. Okay, down in Georgia as well. So down along the southeastern area, kind of on the Gulf Coast, there's a lot of werewolf sightings, a lot of werewolves. I've even talked about the wolf woman of Mobile, Alabama. Okay, that was the thing. The wolf woman is what they called her. She was hairy, but nonetheless, she was like a werewolf woman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had done a remote viewing target of that a while back, and I was picking up on shape-shifting and black magic, a lot of black magic. Now, talking about the Rougarou, that's well known to be in the bayou of Louisiana. Is that because of voodoo, Dennis?
Well, it can have a voodoo influence to it. It can be brought about by certain voodoo rituals, definitely. What happens with the Rougarou is that some people, there are different types of Rougarou here we're going to talk about. There's a couple of different types. The one Rougarou that is sort of a spiritual entity, and it can possess people. And they allow the possession, they allow this spirit to enter them. And they supposedly, this thing will inhabit them for 100 days. And after 100 days, they're supposed to pass this thing on to somebody else. So this is sort of like, a supernatural equivalent of friendship bread or something. You're passing this recipe on time after time after time. That's not good. But the thing about it is, it can also be a curse. And like I said, if you break Lent, if you go against certain precepts of the Catholic Church and you do the wrong things, and and they're very particular about certain festivals, certain times of the year that they have to do certain things. If you break these rituals, then you are opening yourself up to be possessed, supposedly, by evil spirits like the Rougarou. The Rougarou has very much of the same attitude, sort of like the Wendigo. It is a force of nature, and yet it can possess you. And the Rougarou, of course, will turn you into cannibalism. You will be eating people, definitely. You are very much like a werewolf. Now, the word Rougarou actually comes from the French version of wolf, werewolf, which is Loup Garou. Loup Garou means wolf, werewolf, basically, wolfman. Um, so that's where you get the word Rougarou. But now the Rougarou is a little bit darker than your average werewolf because it has the ability to possess people spiritually. That's not good. That's never good.
Mhm.
It can be
But there,
brought about in some ways by witchcraft. It can be brought about by breaking certain precepts of the church. It can be brought about by having an evil nature and wanting to take revenge on somebody for something. Whatever the situation is, it's almost like demonic possession to a certain extent. Basically, that's what it really is.
oh, so there can't be a good werewolf then. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, well, definitely, you're not gonna have a good experience with the Rougarou. They're very dark, because they are deep into demonic power. That these things are fueled by. That's the fuel that runs them. And like I said, with revenge, hatred, animosity, hatred for somebody or certain groups or whatever the situation is, if you have a prejudice against someone, this will can turn you into a Rougarou. There are different things that can get you. So it's really looking at humanity as its basis form. You're becoming more animalistic than human because of your emotions and your hatred and the evil in you.
Mm. Well, I think that would make a perfect. I want to say. Well, I'm just going to say it. Killing machine. Okay, and a super soldier potentially for militaries and factions all over the world. I would think, and we've heard rumors. I haven't seen a lot of proof, but I believe they probably did use them of werewolves being used in our military. With the let's see, even the Germans using them. They're allegedly was they were used
Well, let me
in
say
World War
this.
II.
If you were to face something like the werewolf or the Rougarou or something along those lines, you better count your ammunition. Make sure you've got the right amount because you're going to have a problem. You are coming up against a supernatural creature. That's the only way I can describe it. It's a supernatural creature. It goes the laws of the universe. This thing is a force of nature, but it's not a good force of nature. It's not like the wind or the rain. It's worse. It's darker than that. And I think a lot of these things, Jessica, if you want to look at the origin or you look at the beginning of these things, I think these things are connected to the dark energy of the earth to a certain extent. They're almost like uh, elemental beings in that respect. And if you had control over something like that and could make a soldier out of it, you would have a splendid army. Definitely, you would have a super army.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, that's the last thing I'd want to come up against would be a werewolf army. But however, I have kind of joked around about wanting a werewolf security team. I think it'd be great. But now I don't know because they would turn on me in a second and they'd probably try to eat me. So maybe I'm gonna renege on that. I'm gonna say I don't want a werewolf security team
This
anymore.
way, you wouldn't want a werewolf security team if you cut yourself shaving or something. You know,
Oh my gosh.
in a minute, it'd be like a bunch of sharks on you. I would see
Oh
that as being a
God.
bad problem. That's why, and I said this before about some of these. We've talked about cryptids supposedly under control of certain auspices of the government and stuff like that. You would have to have an incredible amount of control over these things. The only way I see you actually doing that is implanting some kind of a chip or something in them that would control them completely. Because you're not going to just train these things like you would regular soldiers. Basic training on these guys. They're not going to take that. You're going to have to control them absolutely, completely, 100%.
Well, I do know we have brain chips that people are volunteering to put in their brains and things like that. We also have a very complex psychological warfare department, I'm sure, with our military. And I was just thinking back, the past like 4 years or so, it's been really easy. It's been really shocking, actually, to see how easily people can be controlled and that we are all controlled with MK Ultra mind control, psychological warfare, and things like that. Not all of us, okay, not everybody, but a lot of people um, are, mind controlled. Okay. And that's something that's been kind of put on the public for a long time um, in the media and things like that. But I would think that at this late stage in the game here, I would think that if there are werewolves and there are super soldiers being used, um, cryptids being used as super soldiers, they know exactly how to control those things. They know exactly how to control them, and they do, and if they would use them. But that's just my opinion. This is my opinion. Just from all the research we've done, even back into the 1920s, they were doing super soldier experiments on animal and human hybrids below the Billywhack Dairy out in California. That was the 1920s, Dennis. So I would assume, but that was 100 years ago. They're probably pretty advanced in what they can do with things like werewolves now.
Oh yeah. This stuff goes back way, way, way back. I mean, back a lot further than people realize of what's truly going on with that. But the another thing we have to realize: if you're a soldier out in the field and you run up against a squad of werewolves or squad of reptilians come in, you're going to be heavily intimidated by that. You're definitely going to, want to leave the field probably. And you can see the psychological aspects of this, not just the physical, but the psychological aspects and even maybe the spiritual aspects of this. When you're going up against an enemy like that, I would not want to do it. No, thank you. I would not
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
to be in that
AAO, thank
position.
you.
But that would be a very bad thing to happen.
It would be. It would be. AAO, thank you for becoming a member of
But
the Hunt Club today. Thank you.
A lot of this stuff goes back far beyond the Nazis' experimentation. Look at the Island of Dr. Moreau that was written back in the 1800s. It goes further back than that. Well, if you want to get deep into it, it goes back to the plan of the Nephilim and all that, because that's where I believe without a doubt 99.9% of cryptids come from. They are experimentation by the Nephilim and the fallen angels, or whatever name you want to give them, whatever title. I believe that this was part of their experimentation that is still ongoing to this day, because they were not only messing around with human women and doing stuff, but they were also messing around with humans and animals, making weird hybrids and all that. If you asked me, I had somebody ask me not long ago, where do I think the Dogman comes from? I think that is his actual origin. I believe he's part of an experimentation process that went on thousands of years ago and is still ongoing. I don't think they ever stopped.
I agree with you. I think so too. It could be, but I don't know. On all those like old world maps, they show civilizations of dog-headed people on these maps, like the Piri Reis map from the 1513. So when that map was made. Okay, that was a long time ago. That was centuries and centuries ago. Not too soon before. I mean, it was around the same time actually as these werewolf trials were going on too. Okay, that was like 16th century actually. A couple centuries later.
Absolutely.
Okay, but nonetheless,
you can approach this thing through different avenues. Like you can obtain this power through the demonic and the dark witchcraft. You can already hook up with these things that have this experimentation going on, and I'm sure our governments are involved heavily in this. Without a doubt, I know they're in bed with the demonic forces in this world, okay? But I've been proven that face to face, that I have seen this, and I know without a doubt that's what's truly going on here. Mankind is selling out mankind.
Oh, yes, in a lot of cases, I 100% agree with you on that. And that's a tough pill to swallow, but that's just the way it's been from the beginning of time, Dennis. Mankind selling out mankind, and now we got things like werewolves to worry about, and aggressive Bigfoots and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, very very interesting. But not. And I like that Maureen had put. How long is one a werewolf? How long, when you become a werewolf, how long are you a werewolf? And then she said, until it wears off, she said. So thank you for that, Maureen. I thought that was a serious question for a second. And I saw that and I was like, yes, I love the jokes. So until it wears off, y'all. Okay, so not all werewolves are all bad. I don't know, because you had mentioned, and I'm not sure these are werewolves, but you had mentioned the hounds of God before the show started, Dennis. Tell me about the hounds of God. What is that? And how do they affect the world?
Well, that has been a fascinating subject part of this for me. I have researched this for many years. The hounds of God are basically supposed to be a super secret enclave of the church that employs a race of werewolves to do good in the world. And these werewolves supposedly even go into hell and fight witches and demons and keep them from coming out of hell to bother us on the earth. These are called the hounds of God. That's what they call themselves. They're supposed to be a organization that still exists to this day, although it's a very super secret one. But they use the power. Now, this is strange to think about it, but they use the power of darkness against darkness. But that's never usually a good thing. But that's the way it's supposed to be. But now there was a man named Theseus who they put on trial. And he was a very elderly man. I think he was about like 81 years old, something like that. And he confessed, without torture, he confessed that he was a hound of God. And he said, there's more of me. There's a lot of us. There's a group of us that work for the church. And we do this. And we keep these evil witches and demons at bay. And so they kind of said, well, he's an old man. We'll give him 10 lashes and let him go. They didn't do anything to him because either they felt sorry for him, or maybe it's some rumors that they believed because they knew he was telling the truth.
Wow. Very interesting. So the hounds of God would be the opposite of hellhounds, because hellhounds they guard the gates of hell, from what I can recall. But these things actually go fight fire with fire, so to speak, for God.
Yeah, kind of strange. But you don't usually attack evil with evil, though. It's usually the other way around. But that's a very strange opposite of this story. But now you take, for instance, the hellhounds. We'll touch on them for just a moment. They are fascinating too. But these are actually a class of demons, and they are sent to come after you and drag you to hell when you die. If you've lived a very bad life, okay, they will show up to get you. You cannot see hellhounds. I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, I saw a hellhound the other night." And I said, "No, what you saw was not a hellhound. You do not see hellhounds until the moment they drag you to hell. Until then, they're invisible. You can hear them. You can even smell them. You can hear them walking and all that, but you cannot see them. If you were to see a hellhound, it'd be the last thing you would ever see. Put it that way. So the hellhounds, when they come after you, like I said about the werewolf, if they get your scent, they will never stop until they find you. That's it. And there are many stories of people lying on their deathbeds being pulled to hell by these hellhounds, supposedly.
Ew. That is not what I would like. I don't want hellhounds. Okay. That's why we gotta have a pure heart, y'all. Okay. Live a good life. Don't get drug out to hell by the hellhounds. That's horrible. Um, Absolutely terrible. But fascinating at the same time. And it actually reminds me of all the, so like I've actually been out in the field doing cryptid field research, and a lot of times we smell Bigfoot's out there. We smell them or whatever's out there. We smell it. You can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
There's footsteps, but you just can't see it. It's invisible. Whatever it is, you just don't see it. It's there. You can feel the presence, but you just can't see it. And that's kind of what you're describing.
Well, it's kind of very much like, the smell supposedly of angels is the smell of roses. Like, there are certain things that we can track by smells. We don't pay attention to a lot of smells sometimes, but I have walked into houses that I could tell by smelling, definitely it was demonically infested, without a doubt. There's certain telltale signs like that. But you know what? And I've had a lot of people come up to me and they ask me, what can I do against these things? What's the number one thing I can do to stop werewolves from bothering me, or vampires to stay away from me, or witches and all this other stuff, demons and all that? What's the number one thing you can do? Here it is, okay? You must have more light in you than darkness, and then there will be no room for the darkness. That's the number one way you keep this stuff away from you. And no matter what's out there, if we approach it with a pure heart, that's what I'm talking about with the pure heart thing. If you're with a pure heart and good intentions, you will come out on a more positive note in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So live with a pure heart, everybody. Don't get drug off by the hellhounds. Hey, Shanti's in the chat today. She was wondering, and I think this is when we were talking about, of course, we're talking about werewolves still, but what is the end objective? And I don't know. I think this comment might have come up when we were talking about the super soldiers and the government militaries potentially using them and utilizing them. Control. It's always about control. That's always the end objective. It's, I don't know, destroy. Hopefully it's not to destroy humanity, but my goodness, I live in Georgia. We had the Georgia Guidestones up, Dennis, and they did mention how it would be ideal to have the population under 500 million, I believe was the number. And it seems as though the past few years we have been bombarded with things that are trying to take humanity out. Okay, that's my opinion, for entertainment purposes only and educational purposes only. But a lot of things are designed to take us out. And maybe that's what this is about too. Maybe this is what
that is the end. That is the end
objective.
That is the end objective. The destruction of mankind. Not only just our physical destruction, but our spiritual destruction as well. I'm gonna tell you what, you can take the body down and drop the jacket off and it will go away. But the spiritual aspects that are there, if you can attack that and destroy it, you have done severe damage. Absolutely. And we got to remember these things are not only out to kill our bodies, but to get our souls as well. And that is the end objective. Okay, the destruction, the complete destruction of humanity. That includes our souls as well.
It does. I agree with you 100%, Dennis. It's all about. I mean, we're deep in this whole transhumanism movement right now, and there's a lot working against humanity right now. A lot. I'm Team Human, by the way. I am Team Human 100%, and we're here to try to save humanity. Okay, I don't know. Just do a little part here by talking about werewolves and the dangers that we have all around us. Protect your neck, y'all. Protect your neck. Avena says trauma-based mind control dogmen and werewolves used as the border control in some cases, I believe. Wow, that's interesting because I have heard we've talked about some cases, at least one pretty major case of border patrol agents down in I think it was Texas, somewhere down there on the southern border in the United States. Seeing dogmen take out an entire family or entire group of people. And two out of those three border patrol agents, from what I was told, are no longer with us today, if you know what I mean.
Well, during Katrina, supposedly there were reptilians sighted working with the government in uniform as well. It would not surprise me if Dogman showed up in that capacity as well. Because, like I said, the government is in bed, deep in bed with these things, and it is invested in it. And we do know the government will not stop at weaponizing anything. It's weaponizing our weather right now. The list goes on and on and on. They're gonna weaponize so they destroy us completely. That's what the whole thing's about. But we got to understand something too, that I think without a doubt they will fail because their ultimate goal is not good. Their ultimate goal is based in fallacy, and it's no good. It's not good. Whatever that they think that goal is, you know how bureaucrats are. They think they're always doing good when they're not usually, and that's just the way these guys are looking at it. They think they may be doing good stuff, but they're not doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So reptilians working with FEMA and their government during the Katrina hurricane levee break and stuff. Okay, that's interesting you said that because we are talking about the Rougarou, which is based. A lot of sightings are in New Orleans, Louisiana. That's exactly the area that we've been talking about earlier, during the show today. So not only do we have werewolves down there, wolf sightings, dogmen too, reptilians. Gosh, that would make total sense. I need to look into that some more. I would love to do a show on that about the reptilians down in New Orleans. I'll be.
That is a fascinating subject. There was a lot of reports on that, them being sighted at some of the supermarkets and malls and some of these other places where there were some food issues going on. They were supposedly seen in uniform, and they were actual tactical units that were deployed.
Wow. Yeah. That is super wild. That is super wild.
A remote viewing thing there.
It would be. That would be. If we could locate some actual sightings as actually where they were, and I could get the locations and the date and the time, I could definitely, that could definitely be some good remote viewing targets.
I'll look into it for
right
you.
There. Okay. Yeah. Let's do some research on that. And I would love to do some remote viewing on that. Somebody needs to do that. Yes. Urso says Katrina, that's from Hurricane Katrina, had in New Orleans, had special ops go in with list of residencies and labs of interest to take stuff.
A lot of freaky stories that came out of that Katrina episode. And one of them was one, and it has to do with voodoo, where they actually would enter houses in flooded areas to count the bodies in them. and they would mark on the outside in red, spray paint, 2 or 3 or 4 bodies, every how many were in that house. And they actually went into one house, and there was a body in the house, and it was chained to the wall.
What?
And it was decomposing, okay? And said that when they walked up to the body and looked at it, that it laughed at them from its
No.
wall. And it scared them so bad they left the house and forgot to even mark that house. But they said that later on they saw heavy government activity around that house. That was a strange incident, but that had very much like a voodoo connection to it, like a zombie type thing.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard that. Oh my gosh. That's another show right there. Because you had mentioned before on our show that you had been contacted before about paranormal stuff. I guess like government had contacted you to consult on some paranormal aspects. And also, I think you mentioned before that the furniture used in the case that was the Exorcist movie, I think was based off of, that furniture from that actual case was put into storage by our government too to be studied, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were supposedly a lot of weird things that happened on the movie set. And there was some study of some of the items that were there on the movie set. Supposedly some of that was put in storage by the government. The government, without a doubt, I know without a doubt, is heavily involved in this. And when they told me that, years ago, say, we are interested in people like you with supernatural knowledge and people with supernatural talents. And that's what really disturbed me. What kind of talents were they talking about? Are they looking for people who can turn into werewolves or vampires or what? Or deep into witchcraft? I don't doubt it one bit, because that is something they can weaponize.
They can. They can. Amy's asking, could that have been a vampire chained to that wall in the house? I mean, New Orleans is known for vampires. Okay. Vampires. That's a good question. What do you think, Dennis? Could that have been a vampire?
Well, it sounded more to me like a zombie type thing. I don't know. It could have been something like that. I would love to have actually seen that. That is very fascinating. Here's the thing about the zombie, a real true zombie, and I'm not talking about one that's a human under drug influence. I'm talking about a real honest to God zombie. It's going to deteriorate, and they're going to, they're not, you can't unalive them because they're already unalived. Put it that way. That's the problem you got with a real zombie. Okay. And we got to remember something about zombies from what Hollywood has taught us. They're not these ravening things after you to eat your brains. That's not a real zombie. Real zombies can be sent out to murder people. I call them human drones. Matter of fact, I did a show with our good friend Shanty about vampire drones.
Shanty's in the chat.
Drones are not things flying around with wings. These are drones, or people who are trained or automated to do certain things. They're sent out to do certain missions. I think the Rougarou could be sent out to do. I think the Dogman could possibly be sent out to do certain things under the influence of dark witchcraft. Like that, you have control over these things. And like I said earlier, the only ways you would control them would be with something like some kind of mind chip or some kind of very heavy influence of dark witchcraft. That's the only way you could really control these things. But you can send these things out like drones to do things. I think this is happening, and I don't want to get your channel in trouble here, okay? But I'm going to tell you something freaky. I think this is happening in the headlines today. And I'm not going to get into certain things that have happened recently, but I think certain people are being sent out to do certain acts against the public for certain political reasons. Okay. I'm not going to get deep into this. I don't want to get you in trouble, but I believe without a doubt, this is part of our life right now.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you on that. But I mean, it all stems back not only to drones, people being used as drones and being controlled, but mind control too. A lot of the MK Ultra mind control. Um, it's just part of our everyday lives now, and so that's why I say keep your head on a swivel, everybody, and be aware of what's going on around you. You know, and I can even backtrack a little bit to a show that Brown Dwarf and I did. Bigfoot Dwarf, I think it's Bigfoot Dwarf now, Brown Dwarf. But he and I did a show on the Cabbage Patch, the incubator babies. We talked about the pod people as well, and those are actual the pod people. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's POD, and it's some kind of personal operational drone, I think is what they're called. Personalized or personal operational drone. And so those are like people who were artificial humans who have been created, and they're out in the public. A lot of these people, I'm not saying they're not real. There's not a lot of real people around us, but I think that some people around us, Dennis, are not actual humans in the sense that we know what humans are.
Absolutely. And some of these, like I talked about being vampire drones, are people that can actually be sent out. Now, listen to this. And what we talked about this before, and I'll be talking about this, I think, again on Shandy's next show, which I'll be doing with her Thursday at high noon. You have a spiritual barrier around you, built into you. Okay. We call it our personal space, but it is really a spiritual barrier. And even animals have this. Okay. I'm sure Bigfoot has it. Any kind of a living thing has this barrier. Okay. Because it has a living spirit to it. But once you penetrate this barrier, bad things can happen. If you're a bad actor and you penetrate someone's spiritual barrier, you can do bad things. They can not only sap your energy, but they can send you negative energy into your body that can do things to you. So be very, very careful who you let touch you, who you let approach you. Make sure it's somebody you truly know and love and trust. Because there are certain people out there, vampire drones like this, that can be sent against you to give you the negative energy by your enemies, by people that want to take you down. And I want to tell you something, Jessica. People like you and I need to know, especially when we run podcasts like this, we are in the public eye. Therefore, we are in public extortions. Okay, we are extorted by the public to a certain extent. They know who we are and they see us and all that, but we also have bad actors out there that don't like us. Okay, you and I both have run into these people. We know, you know what I'm talking about. I've got one now that's a troll that does that. But think about if they can go one step further and actually touch you and send you the bad energy that they really have against you. This can happen. This is real stuff. This is things that these people can do to you. They don't have to put something in your food or your drink or send a spell to you that way. They can also touch you and give you this dark energy, and it will badly affect you. So be very careful with your spirit shield, okay? And don't let anybody or anything get in it. And you got to be very careful about being in large crowds and stuff like this. We need to understand what kind of world we're living in now, and we need to act accordingly.
We do. Well, hopefully, I mean, what if the opposite is true as well? And I'm saying this from like, what if, let's just say, like, your vibrational frequency is really high and you're just exuding love. Okay, I'm not saying everybody's like this, but I'm saying, what if there was people out there who could do that, and the things don't affect them as much? Is that a possibility too? Like, could someone be highly vibrational and just a pure heart, like we were saying earlier, and not have bad intentions? I mean, not to say they won't be affected by these curses and the bad things that people throw at them, but could they combat that by just being a high vibrational, pure-hearted being?
Absolutely. You got to develop, like I said earlier, you need more light in you than darkness. Because here's the thing about it, Jessica, and the werewolves, the Rougarou, and all this other stuff. This is darkness on the outside of us, okay? and it's always seeking to hook up with that darkness in us. And we all have a certain amount of darkness in us. That's what makes us human, okay? But we don't want that darkness to hook up with the darkness in us and drag us deeper into the darkness, and we'll be lost, you know? So we have to guard against that. So it's like it's saying, I agree with you 100%. You keep that vibrational energy high, keep that light overwhelming the darkness in you, okay? So that there is no room for the darkness at all. That is the number one way to supersize that spiritual barrier around you, okay? That will help safeguard you. But the other thing is mental, and it is this: you must not let your guard down. Keep your guard up. Just like boxing. When you're boxing, you got to keep your hands up. You got to keep your guard up. If you let them down, you're liable to get punched pretty bad. And sometimes these punches may not be something that you can recover from. So be very careful. Keep your guard up, but keep that light overwhelming the darkness in you. That's the main thing. And that's what will really safeguard you against the evil in this world. That's where you get the pure heart thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah, I don't want everybody to feel like we're doom and gloom, because there are ways to combat this, and yeah, and it is having a pure heart, and we have stated that throughout the entire show today. Have a pure heart, and love. Okay, love yourself, and someone was saying that, I can't remember who it was. I just had the comment up on the screen. They were saying that it may have been Urso. I'm not sure. It said that I didn't believe in voodoo. Maybe it was Cosmic Joe. Okay. They said they didn't believe in voodoo until a death curse was put upon them. And I want to thank Candy before we address that. Candy, thank you so much for that super sticker. You're so sweet. She says, Jessica is such a gracious hostess. Thank you. And you're a great mod. I hope you and Willow are doing wonderful and having a good New Year. Thank you for that.
Well, I actually wrote a short story about a voodoo curse like that, where this guy was a voodoo man. He put a curse on him, and he was slowly dying. He had the graveyard smell on him. He was slowly going away. It was like a zombie curse on him. And so he had to get out of jail to pay the voodoo man. He had to pay him. He owed him some money. And when he paid him, he took the spell off of him, you know. And yeah, these things are real, though. Okay, I know that's a work of fiction, but these things are real. They actually go on. But here's the thing you got to remember about spells and curses, okay? And it's very, very, very important what I'm about to tell you. They have no power over you unless you give it to them.
Bingo.
The curse, the spell, it can only work if you believe in it. You understand what I'm saying? If you believe it has the power to affect you, then it will, because it uses that belief. So it's sort of faith in reverse. It's kind of an anti-faith, but it is believing in the wrong thing. So if I were to put a curse on you right now, Jessica, and I could put a bad curse on you right now, I would let you know that I did it, okay? Because then psychologically it will start working on you. And you will give power to the curse by simply believing in it. That's how these things work. And once you disconnect that, you take the power away from it by not believing in it, it can't work against you.
Mm-hmm. I want to give a personal encounter real quick, because something happened when I was going through a tough divorce. Okay, tough divorce. Not okay. We're not going to get into details, right? But something was going on, and I had a lot of people that, you know, I mean, I've been through like phases in my life the past few years where, like, there's always that one person I see. It's like a demonic. Okay, this is terrible, but I'm going to be honest. Okay, full disclosure. I have watched Dennis as an entity. I'm going to say demonic entity has jumped from person to person in my life, and it went from someone that I was really close to, had a divorce, to a person in the podcasting world. I'm not going to name names. Okay. To people that, like, people with loud mouths, people that could, like, do some damage if they wanted to people publicly and stuff. And, full disclosure. Okay. Without naming names. And those people literally try to destroy me, destroy everything about me. And I remember at some point, I started getting message. I thought it was an accidental message, but see, I already knew about curses. I already knew about the stuff that was being done to me. And I knew what was going on. I was privy to it. Okay. And I knew about it. And so one day I got this really strange text message, Dennis. Okay. And it was a dead chicken. And it had been used in a ritual, and somebody had sent me that. And I was like, oh,
Now
and I knew exactly what it was, because that was someone wanting me to know that they had cursed me and to make me scared. And I was like, this is terrible. I feel bad for that chicken. But like, somebody sent me that during when all this was going on. Okay. And I did not let that happen, but I knew exactly what it was. So this is the kind of thing that people will do to you. Okay. And I would never have talked about this publicly if we weren't talking about it. And I feel like it's important to talk about because it happened to me. Okay. It didn't affect me, but they tried to. What do you think, Dennis?
Well, that's what it is. You know, when if you empower this darkness, it will definitely turn against
Mm-hmm.
and bite you. Okay, definitely. And that's what we've got to understand. We got to disconnect that empowerment, and then it doesn't have any power over us. Okay, it will stop it in its tracks. And one of the ways to do this is, of course, not giving into the fear. That's what they want to intimidate you with. That's the weapon that they use against you. Psychologically, fear. The government knows it works very well. A lot of people out there know what fear does and what it can do and what it can accomplish. So, and I've talked with people all over the world about these situations and problems. And when I tell them the simple solution to it is, it has no power over you unless you give it to it. And if you're facing something that gives you that overwhelming fear, you need to get away from it. Okay, you need to get away from it. If you can't handle the fear, if you can't get a handle on the fear, then you need to get away from it. You need to something on that. Okay, you need to regroup, because that is a very essential weapon that the darkness uses against you. Fear. And it's a mind control game that is playing with you to a certain extent. Although, and let me tell you this, fear can be almost like a demonic entity unto itself if you let it.
That's right. That's why I always say, I'm like, don't these people know I don't have any fear, especially of that crap? Okay. But I thought it was I personally thought it was kind of funny. Okay. And I know that's terrible to say that, but I mean, that's just the way I look at it. I think it's ridiculous, that people want to curse people just because they don't like them. And I think it's very, very God complexious, if that's a word. Okay. It's like a God complex for someone to want to curse another person. It's like they're playing God in that person's life, Dennis, right?
It's a very knife used against me on the death curse. This knife was sent the death curse, okay? And it didn't work. I'm still here, okay? But this was a death curse, okay? There are different death curses they can put on you. I have had over the years several attacks like that by certain people, I guess, that don't like me. But I don't care. I'm still kicking. And that's what we've got to remember, okay? The fear, you can deal with the fear, then you got a leg up in the saddle, okay? And you're gonna ride where you need to ride. But you gotta get a handle on that fear. You don't let it fall. What do we remember? The very famous words that we have been taught from the beginning of our lives. Fear no evil. Evil wants you to fear it. That's how it gets control over you. That's how it works against you psychologically and spiritually. That's the way it works. So if you take that equation out, you're doing real good. You got a handle on it.
You are. I love this comment. Oh my gosh, David Guzman Racing. Thank you for putting this up here. Anything diabolical is just meant to bring us back to our purity. And oh my gosh, yes. I 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it did. And you know what? And it takes, sometimes it takes stuff like that, you know, like me getting that picture of that dead chicken with its head cut off and all that stuff. Like, and it did go to the sheriff's department. Yes, I do have a restraining order against somebody. Okay. And that was just put in the file. Okay. However, I'm just saying, it's stuff like that you just don't think people would stoop to a level like that, Dennis. You really don't, until it happens to you. Okay, you wonder, like, why, how can anybody ever do something like that? I mean, but it happens to the best of us. It happens to the worst of us. It happens to everybody at some point. And maybe the reason that happened to me was so that I could talk about it today. I had never planned. Listen, a lot of the things that happened to me, I never planned to talk about publicly. But then it leaks out a few years later. Okay, and so yes, that did happen to me, and it did, and it was in the middle of my spiritual journey. You know, like I'm on my path, and I was doing a lot of work on myself.
Well, it's always
mm-hmm.
It's always good to take something bad and turn it around to good. That's the
right.
way to go. And so if your story can help somebody, then that definitely
Mm-hmm.
turning it good. Absolutely. But you know, we got to remember too that some of the worst people walking around out there are false friends, people that smile on your face and stab you in the back. They lead double lives, these people do. They're so smiling, so sweet, but underneath, they're demons. They're very bad.
Werewolf.
And we've got to watch out for those, okay? And like I said, we need to be careful with who we're letting in our personal space, our spiritual space. We need to be careful about even things that we're bringing into our life through music, movies, games, all these other things. We've got to be very careful because there's so much insidious, diabolical stuff out there waiting and trying to change our lives and take over our minds and control us. That's what it's all about. And we know this is going on. We know this is happening without a doubt. So we need to address it accordingly. We need to be ready for it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know, and here's another thing is that people will get you when you're in a low place in your life. And that's what a lot of times, if I felt like if somebody was sending, whoever sent that to me was attempting to break into my protective barrier. I have a big protective barrier, right? We all do. And you know, we got to always keep up our spiritual hygiene, as they say. And I don't talk about mine at all because it's nobody's business. Like, I've had people ask me, like, what do you do to protect yourself? Well, I'm not going to tell anybody, because then you know how to get around it. Okay, you'll be more likely to. So we don't tell everybody how we protect ourselves. Okay, I don't recommend everybody telling everything to anybody. But they did, people who are putting out negative energy towards us. And I know we're talking about werewolves today, but this can pertain to werewolves too. Okay, they depend on you having a weak spot in a weak moment and a tear in your barrier. As Barry Littleton talks, Barry's in the chat today. Hey, Barry. Talks about having a tear in your protection. Okay. Something that where, you know, let's just say like the holidays, for instance. We just had Christmas, right? And everybody's stressed out. And, you know, especially, you know, single parents and stuff too. I mean, anybody who's lost a loved one, we're all stressed out. That'd be a perfect time to go attack people, right, Dennis? Because their barriers are down. They're depressed. A lot of people may be drinking and stuff too, and doing things that lower your frequency. So you have to always be aware of always keeping your energy levels high, always having your just be on a high vibration, as Jane says, Chiro sounds. Always keep your vibrations high, because it's when you're low and you're not paying attention is when things can hurt you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, you're so right. That is so true. And, you know, these things, just like this incident that happened with you, they were trying to make you a victim, Jessica.
Yes,
they were trying to make you a victim because they were probably afraid of you as a warrior. Okay, put it that way. Because they didn't want you. They want to keep you as a victim. These things attack us when we're in our lowest point. We got to remember that. And sometimes we can get low without meaning to. We can be sick, or we can be depressed. We're only human beings, okay? We have these feelings. That's what makes us human. But these things are waiting to exploit that, Okay. And we've got to be very careful about that. It is another form of extortion against us, put it that way. They are trying to exploit these things, especially when they know we got a weak spot. That's exactly where they head toward. And well, like you said, Barry says you got a tear in the protection. If you got even a thin area in that protection, you better watch out because that's what they're going to go after. Okay. And you got to be very careful how you address this. And you got to stay on top of your game all the time. I stress that to people. Stay on top of your game. Don't let your guard down. Be very careful. And if you know you're not, okay, just like today, like if you're not feeling good today and you know you're not feeling good, then you got to address that. You got to say, well, hey, I got to really watch out about that, because I'm weak in that area right now. Or whatever the situation is, you can kind of accommodate what's going on with you. Okay. So stay in touch with yourself and understand yourself more. Be more sensitive to your needs and what is going on in your life. And like you said, you keep that vibrational energy at 100% as much as possible. I've often said it's like Star Trek. Okay. I may have some hull damage and my shields may be down to 13%. Okay. But I'm still hanging in there. Okay. So you got to get them shields back up though, folks. You got to get the shields back up to 100% so that you'll be okay and you don't have to worry about photon torpedoes hitting you. And
That's
that's
right.
what the enemy is out to do to you. And you got to understand that. That's what they're going to do. And they will attack you if you give them that chance. Don't let them make you a victim. Like we've talked about this before, and as in law enforcement, I could not stress this more often. Don't walk down through the parking lot scared, shaking, and holding your pocketbook and all that. You look like a victim waiting to happen. Okay. That's what you're doing. And there are predators out there watching you. Don't ever forget that. The world that we live in now is much worse than it was back when we left the cave at night with our spear. Okay. We didn't know what we were going to face. Same thing's going on in the world today. Whether it's in the parking lot at Walmart or it's in a grocery store or wherever you're at, you better always remember that it can come and find you anywhere. Okay. And you got to be ready for it. Don't be the victim. Be the warrior. That's what they will fear you then. Fear will fear you. Okay. If you're a warrior, that's the main thing.
Mm-hmm. Some people say stay strapped or get clapped. Okay, so don't you guys just take the advice today. Please protect yourselves. You don't have to stay strapped. Okay, just pay attention to your surroundings and don't walk around with earbuds in your ears. Okay, with music on when you're outside, especially at night by yourself. And so even walking the dog, y'all, be careful when you're out there. And Hans has a question about this. Now I already know the answer to this, Dennis. But Hans wants to know, does drinking liquor make you more susceptible to bad entities?
Absolutely. And it just came out the other day. Believe this or not, and I've been told about this for so good many years now. The liquor industry does not want you to know this, but liquor has been actually, and we're talking about any form of alcohol, okay, has actually been connected to 7 different types of cancer.
Ooh.
7 different types of cancer. You're playing Russian roulette with alcohol, folks. And years ago, I had the main woman who was one of the experts, world experts in cancer, tell me, do not put 1 drop of alcohol in your mouth. So that's the worst thing you can put in your body. I'm sorry, but that's the bad news. 7 different types of cancer may be caused by alcohol. You're playing with a loaded deck.
They are. And especially if you drink dark liquor, man. I remember back when I used to drink a little bit and when I was young, wild and free. And no, dark liquor was not a good idea. Okay. I've seen some people do some really crazy things on that. I mean, you do get possessed when you drink dark liquor. Some people, not everybody. Okay. But I can say it happens quicker on that sometimes. Quicker with the dark liquor. Okay. I just made that up. But yeah,
That's the reason
it's not
why
black.
they,
It's
that's the reason why they call it spirits, Jessica.
right. That's
Yeah.
true. I know we got to be careful, and you got to be careful with the drinking, y'all. Got to be careful, and now it's for more reasons than one. There's a lot of reasons, um, but yeah. So I don't know. This has
Yeah,
been
well,
just
let me say this right quick.
fantastic.
Let me say this right quick. Anytime that you change um, your reality by drugs or whatever kind of drug, whether it's a liquid drug or it's a pill or whatever the situation, whenever you change your mentality with drugs, you're asking for trouble usually because you're not in your true reality. In other words, you're not at your true self. And you are really opening you're opening the doors to the spiritual doors and physical doors and mental doors. You're opening the doors wide open when you do that, and just anything can come in. So you're giving an open invitation to some bad stuff that's out there, whatever it may be.
Yeah, you will. Uh, and like we said earlier, we are living in extremely crazy times right now, and lot of negativity, a lot of craziness, a lot of mind control. We don't know what's going on. I don't want anybody to live in fear. Okay, the last thing we need to be doing is to be fearful of just walking down the street or going to the store or whatever. But just keep your head on a swivel, y'all. It's very important that we do that. Before we go today, Dennis, I wanted to address one more thing because we had a comment in the chat today, and it was talking about what they called witch marks. And I think it was Avena, but I'm not sure. Somebody in the chat said I forgot to star it, but it said something about having witch marks. And some people do believe that they were reincarnated or had been part of the witch trials back in the centuries ago, and they have marks on their bodies like wrinkles. Okay, Tanya and I have talked about this. Tanya Braddock and I had done some remote viewing on the Salem witch trials and the witch trials in general, and some say that they have wrinkles, like especially women will have wrinkles on their neck right here, and that's from where they were hung during the witch trials. Some people
Well,
think.
the real witch mark is called the kiss of the devil, and what it basically looks like is a bite mark. Like you would, bite somebody and leave teeth marks in them. That's what a true witch mark is supposed to look. And when they would strip the women, and that's what they were looking for. That mark that sort of looks like the devil took a nip out of you, kind of a thing. That was called the kiss of the devil. That's what a real true witch mark looks like. There are they could also go, if you had a certain kind of strange looking birthmark or something, they could also claim that as a witch mark too. But mainly the main kind of witchcraft mark was definitely a bite mark.
Wow. Wow, that's wild. Well, I've always heard that any kind of birthmark that a person has, um, a birthmark of any kind is actually the location to where their body was injured, where they died in a previous life. That's what I've been hearing that a lot. And I mean, I have a friend who has a full birthmark over her entire face, like one of those. I think they call it a port stain, or a port. I want to say like a port wine birthmark or something like that. But
Yeah.
she's got it all over her face, and I've always wondered. I was like, well, I wonder if that's how she died in a past life or something. Um, it's just an interesting
Well,
thought.
actually, birthmarks, actually birthmarks are caused by meddling in the body. Certain pigments that may atrophy in one certain part of the body and all that. They're very naturally occurring things. Everybody's got a
Mhm.
birthmark, whether you know it or not. You've got one on you somewhere.
Yeah.
That would be called a birthmark. Although there are, like the port wine, there's certain what we call stains birthmarks. They look like a stain on you, kind of thing. That's caused by the skin, the melanin in the skin, and all that. I've heard a lot of people claim, oh, they're old wounds from other past lives and all that stuff. But basically, everybody would have a wound. Okay, everybody's got a birthmark, whatever kind it may be.
Angie. Hey, Angie. Angie's in the chat today. The Chickle Pickle, y'all. Go check her out. My oldest daughter and I have the exact same birthmark in the exact same place. Does that mean anything? I don't know,
That
Dennis. Have you heard of that?
that could be genetic. That can happen too. The very genetics that we have, Jessica, determine the eyes, the color of our eyes. If you're blue-eyed, you have a common ancestor. With me, I got blue eyes too. We have a common ancestor. The world has a common ancestor with blue eyes. But all of this is genetic in many aspects. And it would not surprise me if a mother and daughter had the same, basically same kind of a birthmark or something like that. That wouldn't be that surprising, really.
Yeah. This is John and Coco are here in the chat today. Hey, y'all. Which marks were supposed to be. Wait, hold on. Let's see. Which hunters? Sorry. We've got two different things going on here. Which hunters would search women sticking pins in them, looking for an insensitive spot? Of course, they focus on private parts. Oh, geez.
Well,
geez.
there was one
Oh, my
other
God.
thing, and
That's horrible.
I kind of hesitate to mention this. Okay, but there is one other supposed witch mark. That is a extra teeth that a woman might possibly have. If she has that, that was another supposed witch mark. But that is a deformity, and they will just go with anything like that, whatever it took to make their case. Okay, but they claimed that if a woman had an extra teeth, she was suckling a demon. Okay, that was part of it. So this goes deep into some nasty stuff. But anyway, that's one of the things they would look for.
I just
And
had a.
and like I
just
said,
remembered
the mark of the devil, the kiss of the devil.
There was some famous actor, rapper guy. I think it was Mark Wahlberg. Seems like he had like a double set of nipples. I'm just saying. So I don't know. I don't know if he's a witch. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not calling Marky Mark a witch, y'all. I'm just saying. I do remember him having extra nipples. Okay, so sorry, I'm not trying to be funny. I just remember that being a thing when we were in high school and talking about that because he was a good looking fella in those Calvin Klein ads. I'm just saying. Warlock, yes, Maureen, he might be a warlock. I don't know. But anyways, what a wild thing. I've actually been seeing I think it's AI. You know, I've seen some like pictures. It looks like AI today of like women that have like a third teat in the middle right there, a boob, a third boob.
Oh, yeah.
So wow, I did not know that was a thing. I mean, you know, it's really sad too that a lot of like genetic deformities would make you a witch.
A lot
Okay,
of
I mean,
supposedly, Jessica is supposed to be connected to the Nephilim thing. There are a lot of babies that are born. You know this, that they will remove a extra toe or an extra finger sometimes. This still comes up a lot. Some people are born sometimes with a double row of teeth, like. The list goes on and on. You got a lot of deformities in our DNA. Absolutely. And where it comes from is still somewhat of a mystery, but still, it is fascinating stuff. And yes, there is a third breast, supposedly, that a woman can have. That is another deformity. Now, it's not actually a working breast like the other breasts that give milk. This would not be the same, but it's still sort of like, it's kind of like you got kind of duplexed in the womb. You didn't turn out to be two twins, in other words. These things can happen. And combination goes on inside the womb. I'll tell you something else fascinating. I was watching this the other day, and I mentioned this since we're talking about this stuff. Did you know that at the moment of your conception, a light went off?
mm-hmm.
A burst of light at the moment of your conception. That proves, I think, without a doubt to me, that is the human soul. coming from God, going into the egg and fertilizing and becoming a person. That to me, I think, proves without a doubt that we have that soul, that light of the soul in us, and that at that moment of conception, we become a living soul.
That's always been the question, right? It's like, when does the soul enter the body? When does human life begin? When does the soul begin? All that. That's an ongoing. It's been a good question for a while. And yeah, that little spark of light, man. There's nothing like it. It's beautiful. It's definitely beautiful. And yeah. Well, I think this is a wonderful place to end the show today, Dennis. I think this has been a fantastic conversation today. And I do appreciate you so much for being here today and talking with us about all this and about the Loup Garou, the Rougarou, and the werewolf witch trials of the 15th and 16th centuries in Europe. And wow, they stem back a long time, Dennis, a long time. And today, have you ever seen a werewolf yourself?
It's a fascinating subject. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And, I remember, I never will forget, when I was at the age of 15 years old, the very first case I investigated was a werewolf case. So the werewolf's been with me a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, you said that you've done some werewolf hunting. Yeah. And we kind of joke around, a werewolf and Dennis have never been seen in the same room together. So we don't know. Dennis could be a werewolf. Y'all, I don't know.
I'm not confessing to anything.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, Dennis, you've got a show tonight. Tell everybody about your YouTube channel and your Patreon and what you got going on this evening.
Yes, ma'am. Well, tonight I will be on with my good friend, Mr. Gerald Fountain. We will be going down the road less traveled. We're going to be talking about ghost animals. So make sure you treat your dogs and cats really good because they might come back to haunt you, okay? And Wednesday night, I will be doing, of course, Hunting the Shadows at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Friday night will be Paranormal Point of View at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm in the process of trying to put me a store together. I'm also, like you said, I have a Patreon, and now my channel is now accepting membership again. And my books, which are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, can be found under the name Dennis W. Carroll. The W is for wolf, by the way. And you can find it there. And if I also have a consulting thing, if you need to consult with me on any kind of paranormal problem, whatsoever it may be, you can get in touch with me at denniswcarroll.com or denniswcarroll@gmail.com. And all of my services are absolutely free.
That's wonderful, Dennis. Thank you so much. You are just a wealth of knowledge, and you have so much experience. You are my resident werewolf expert over here, and vampires too. And yeah, you never know where the conversation's going to go with us, Dennis. You really don't. And hopefully everybody learned a little something today, and hope some of this information could have helped you guys in some way. And yeah, like I say, I never plan on talking about some of my personal stuff, but then it leaks out occasionally. Okay, so you guys got a little insight into what I get to deal with in my personal life sometimes. Okay, I do. I got some crazies following me around. I do. I just don't talk about it. Okay, so but yeah, no werewolves yet. And yes, I am still manifesting. I'm going to go ahead and manifest a Dogman security detail now, not werewolf. I don't want werewolves surrounding me anymore, Dennis. Just Dogman. Okay, Dogman security team. That's in my future. I'm going to have it. Okay, and so Dennis, thank you so much for being here. I want to thank everybody for all of the support today. Thank you for all the super stickers and for the membership gifting, Maureen. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart. You guys are the best. And please come back and see me this Wednesday on A Glitch in the Matrix is when I'll be back. I believe I may be having a show with Shanti tomorrow too over at Aquarius Rising Africa too. So we'll see. I'm going to send her a message right after the show today and see if we can get that thing hooked up. And otherwise, I will see you guys on Wednesday at 1, and I'll see you in the chat tonight over at Hunting the Shadows on YouTube. You guys go meet us over there. And y'all have a wonderful day. Please stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel, y'all. And watch your back. Protect your neck. All right, protect your neck. I'm sending all my love and light to you guys. Dennis, thanks again for being here, and I'll see you tonight. All right, bye, y'all. See you.